Today at work, I sold -1 cars. Reddit. What things have happened at your jobs that you just did not think were possible? A few cool car dealer stories from past employment. 1. Crappy dealer I worked for. The lot porter was doing inventory on the lot and moving new cars around. They use those lock boxes that you roll the window up on so the keys are with the car. They couldn't get the lock box open. They then run the VIN on inventory and find that they never took delivery of the car, yet there it was. 1 hour later, find out the car was reported stolen from a dealer 200 miles away. Someone stole the car, drove to my town, parked it on the lot and left it where it sat for over 1 month. 2. Great dealership I worked at. A couple comes in, takes a car for a test drive. Some people are gone for 10 to 15 minutes, 30 minutes tops. Salesman called the cell phone number. No answer. 1 hour. 2 hours. 5 hours. Nothing. At the end of the day, the sales department calls police to report the car stolen, only to be told it isn't stolen because we gave them the car to test drive and didn't put a time or distance limit on the car. The car is returned the next morning with 500-ish miles on it and an empty tank. Never saw the couple again. 3. Service department manager comes in one morning and sees a customer's car in the parking lot on a jack with a wheel missing. Frick, someone stole the wheel, or just one rim was stolen. Towards the end of the day, someone sees a guy putting the wheel back on that car. Turns out some random guy had a blowout on his car, walked down the road during the night and took a random wheel off a car, put it on his car. Then later on in the day, got a new tire for his car and came back to return the borrowed wheel he took. You've probably heard the phrase, like yelling fire in a crowded theater to describe the onset of utter pandemonium. Yeah, this is in fact not true. We had an electrical fire in one of the projection booths while I was working at a very busy 20-screen theater. All of us employees had to go around to the individual cinemas to announce that there was a fire in the building and everyone had to stay calm and follow evacuation instructions. No one really moved. The films were still running, except the one with the fire in the projection booth, and people were extremely reluctant to leave, even though we told them there was a fire. TLDR. If you yell fire in a crowded theater, people will probably just sit there like idiots because they want to see the end of their film. I was working in the sporting goods department of a very large retail chain that sells guns. A man and his so come to the counter and tell me they wish to purchase a rifle. After inspecting it, he declares that he would like to purchase it. I file the normal paperwork and call the FBI hotline only to find out that he is a convicted felon. I inform him that there was an issue and I can't sell this to him. I give him the hotline number and the request code, which is SOP for this store chain. He tells me that his wife will purchase it. I tell him that is not an option because she was with him during his attempt to buy a firearm per the law. He then asks for 2 machetes out of the case. He is very upset at this point, so tell him I need my manager approval for the sale. I call the manager over and the guy goes ballistic on the manager because I won't sell him the machete without approval. The manager sells them to him and writes me up for poor customer service. Freaking retail. In Poway, CA, a manager at a Walmart was shot and killed in the store parking lot in 1993 in this exact situation. Customer wanted to buy a gun, was denied. Manager walked the guy out to his car as a way of saying sorry about that, and was murdered. Source: a plaque at the store honoring the manager. I was told, just yesterday, actually, that at the next management meeting, I have to give an hour presentation on how to use Google and its related services. IT is cubicle heck. Dude, ultimate presentation. Do absolutely no work, go into meeting, and Google that biz. Really? Just show, no matter the topic, a little Google can help. Open up Google Docs to take notes, remember pages with Google bookmarks, sign into Google Chrome, send an email, watch some presentation how-tos on YouTube. It would be effing awesome. I work as a background actor in TV and films. A minimum wage job where talking to an actor on set could get you fired, which has happened to many of my friends. One day I was sat next to Jimmy Smits in a bar scene and tried to keep to myself. Next thing I know, my brand new and completely silenced phone is ringing. I didn't know the alarm would go off even if everything was set to silent. I ran out of the room, only to return to one of the other actors in the scene saying I should be fired. Jimmy Smits then stands up and announces to the room, I'm sorry my phone rang, everyone, but I had to take it. It was my agent. He gave me a little nod as he sat down and saved my job. TLDR. Jimmy Smits saved my job and proved there are nice celebrities out there. Work in a grocery store. People poop on the floor somewhat often. I worked in a library and there was one person returning books with crap smeared in them constantly. I was 15 and had no power there, and I never understood why my boss never cancelled her library card. I work at a Sherry's restaurant, which is basically like a regional IHOP in the PNW. In our front display case with fresh pies, we also had a tray of caramel pecan cinnamon rolls that were at least 4 years old, because they were sprayed with food preservatives and other stuff. Calcified, hardened, impossible to do anything with. Apparently, we had a host, was eventually fired for good reason, that sold one of those rolls to a customer. A lady asked him for a roll, and pointed at the one in the display case. Instead of telling her that those rolls were for display purposes only, he apparently took the tray into the back of the kitchen. How no one noticed is beyond me, and hacked at it with a steak knife and God knows what else. He boxes the roll up and sells it to the lady. Meanwhile, no one has noticed that the tray of rolls in the front display case is gone. Several hours later, this lady calls back and demands to speak with a manager. Apparently she had no idea what she was supposed to do with this fossil. Was she supposed to call the health department, the police, or what? I don't think she tried to eat it, though reportedly she microwaved it and it started smoking. Needless to say, we gave her a full refund, as well as a free pack of cinnamon rolls. You'd think the guy cutting into it would have realized that if it takes that much effort to cut into the rolls, there's probably something amiss. TLDR. An ex-co-worker sold fossilized cinnamon rolls to a customer. I work as a software developer at a very large online retailer. I tested a system I was working on for 15 minutes and caused a 30,000 plus order backup. It wasn't supposed to be possible. I found a way. I am a bank teller, and one day when balancing out my drawer I came up $30 short. Our policy says any outage over $25, long or short, results in a write-up. I was looking frantically hoping to find it. I've only been at my job for 3 months. I didn't want to be wrote up. After 30 minutes of searching every possible reason for why I would be short $30, I pulled up what my computer read for my tills. It said I had $980 in 50s. $980 in $50 bills. I bring this to the attention of my boss so we could correct it. She confirmed that was the reason I was short. We had a manning shortage and I ended up working in the fore ends of a submarine and firing torpedoes worth over $6.50 million. I know that in the movies it looks like the captain fires a torpedo by pressing a button in the control room, but in fact it only sends a signal to the forward torpedo room where a guy, in this case me, operates a handle with a small button on the top, like the handbrake on an old car, that actually propels them out of the tube with a burst of compressed air. I fired 6 Mk-48s that day worth, I was told at the time, $1.10 million each. Of course the expenditure was not actually so high because they were retrieved. We had a manning shortage, so said the Indianapolis Colts. I overcharged a guy $20,000 on a credit card. He had a bill for $2,222 and I charged him $22,222. I had no idea a credit card machine would accept that much, let alone that anybody has a spending limit over $20,000 on a credit card. I told him what happened after I found out over the weekend from the accounting department what I just did. So I called the guy and told him we were going to reimburse the $20K. His reply, "Oh, that's embarrassing. I didn't even notice it was missing." Turns out he was a former Google VP. Friend of mine is a manager in a supermarket. Apparently elderly people shoplift more than young people. He told me stories of how he would witness an older woman hiding a ham under her dress and trying to walk out of the store. He stopped her and went to call the police. She ended up pooping herself. He was so surprised, he just let her go. But this is apparently the go-to strategy when old people get caught stealing. The old crap your pants to get away trick. Classic. I used to work at McDonald's. When they were paying the managers their regular bonuses, they put it to F, last name and got me, Frankie last name, instead of the actual manager. Freddy last name. I saw it, let them know, and they reversed the payment so I wouldn't pay tax on it. I never got the honesty reward they promised, but I did get a paycheck for minus 176.00 inches, which I have framed at home as a memory of my 3 years there. Customer service rep here. Someone actually called back to thank me and told me I did a good job. I about burst into tears. I once called AAA to give positive feedback for a tow truck driver that fixed my car. When she realized I wasn't complaining, she sounded so surprised and happy. As a customer, it felt so good to make her so happy. One of the kids sharpened his finger. I always wanted to try that, but my fingers were too fat. I work at a computer repairs shop and a kid came in looking for a heatsink. I showed him where it was and he said thanks and walked out without paying. I even said have a nice day. God dang. I cooked a lobster tail in the microwave and the bartender called me and my co-worker out into the dining room so the customer could tell us it was the best he had ever eaten, and Red Lobster has nothing on you in our defense. There should have been 5 cooks and there were only 2 of us, and the oven and steamer were both broken, so everything got microwaved that day. I was once called a xenophobe because we ran out of a certain Christmas tree. If I'm 5 minutes early for my job, I'm considered late. No one freaking understands how time works. In the military, early is on time is late, and late is unforgivable. I wrote a novel during work hours using a work PC, researching it using work internet access and printing draft copies for line editing on work printers. I'm now working on my second novel in the same cubicle and recently got a 5% pay rise. I work for the, not US government, and for some reason the amount of work required by me is about 1/8 of the hours I am contracted to be at work. I take breaks when I feel like it and no one cares when I turn up or when I go home. I have 5 managers. My boss was nice to me today. I once had a boss who cared more about the staff than the client. I used to work at Sears back in college, and we were on commission in lawn and garden. One month we had a massive storm, with trees down all over town. Some people were looking at weeks to get out of their driveways, etc., if they waited on the city to clear. So they would get out onto a main road and get a ride down to our place, figuring they'd buy some chains to yank the tree out of the way, or a chainsaw to cut it up, or something equally eminently reasonable. In theory, once they got home, they realized their Honda Civic wasn't going to pull that 40-foot tree anywhere, or that they didn't actually know how to use a chainsaw, blade oil, fuel mixture, etc. The city was actually incredibly good at getting stuff cleared, so most of this crap got returned on me. I think we had a 1-month window where it could take our commission back. So I come into work and clock in that weekend, and I'm something like minus $1,500 on my numbers. No one had ever seen someone start that much in the hole on a single day. Worst day of my retail career. I had someone come in and return a tractor, 3-bin bagger, and the warranty on a tractor I sold. I asked my manager and he just shrugged his shoulders. I open up the day like 4K in the hole. That was the first time Sears had to bump my paycheck up to minimum wage. I had a customer insist that if we would only mix red ink and white ink for her it would make orange. She said she had another print shop do it for her and that's how to get the orange she wanted, with red and white. I thought, well, she either wants orange, or she wants pink and has just confused how mixtures work. Turns out she wanted yellow. Thank you PMS Books. How many cars do you sell on a normal day? I never thought much about it, but I doubt most car salespeople sell a car every day. I used to work at a dealership as a receptionist. You could sell 5 cars on a busy day, or no cars at all for 2 weeks. It really depends. A buddy of mine accidentally added a $5 million excavating truck to our warehouse inventory. The way our stocking system was set up, each part had a unique code of 2 letters followed by 4 numbers. Anyway, he was adjusting some returned parts back into our inventory and meant to adjust a certain part back in but entered a letter wrong. The part he meant to put in the system was about $12 and the part that was 1 letter different was a $5 million truck. Company policy was that we could only adjust up to $500 in inventory and had to report all adjustments over $300. Anything higher had to be done by people in the front office. Needless to say, People kind of threw a fit when they saw a random extra $5 million in inventory with no explanation. We all had a laugh about it, though. One of the rare good times there. A friend of mine lost her $2,700 commission because the lady she had sold the car was arrested for her 6th DUI. The dealership happened to need more paperwork to complete the deal. She was never able to recover from that experience as a salesperson and left a month later. I had a grown butt man threaten to beat me up over a $4 fast food meal in front of his young son and equally fricked so. He then proceeded to scream at my manager that I should be fired for being rude. I am female and barely over 5 feet tall. I was 18 at the time. I'm always freakishly nice to fast food employees. Then, last time I got Burger King, I forgot to say thank you after I had received my order and she had asked if I wanted condiments. I was given a harsh sarcastic "You're welcome. Feels Bidman. I will never be nice to you people again." Well, on a more positive note, I am in college to become a special education teacher, but I currently work part-time in a special education classroom as a paraprofessional. We had a 6-year-old girl with autism last year, sweetest kid in the world, but she didn't speak. Her mom had given up, and eventually she split and left her daughter in foster care. Luckily a foster family in the area took her, so we were able to continue working. She was working well with a speech device, and that was enough for her teacher, but not for me. I tried to get her to speak at every opportunity. June rolls around and it's the last 2 weeks of school. She's come a long way and done so much, but still hasn't said a word in her life. We're outside, playing in the grass, and I ask her, "Jane, what's your favorite color?" I expected the mechanical voice of the touchpad, but instead she deliberately pointed to the sky and said "bluey." I cried. The other paraprofessional cried, and we called her foster parents so they could cry too. We never dreamed that would happen, but it did. She's doing very well this year and has a vocabulary of about 20 words. I babysat for her over the summer and her 5th word was friend, in reference to me. Sniff good crap. Would read again. I applaud your determination. I once worked in a coffee shop that ran out of coffee for about 20 minutes. I saw a man fired because a customer complained about him doing H in the bathroom. I've seen a woman in her 40s make out with a teenage boy. She was P when we told her to stop. A waitress once knocked a fire extinguisher off of the wall, filling the entire restaurant seating area with choking dust. Customers continued to sit and chat with their friends until we told them that they have to leave because you can't no longer breathe the air. The cleanup that night was heck. I've seen employees told to go home because they have soiled their pants to the point that it is obvious from 100 featuring away. They had to be told. I've seen doctor's notes for work absences reading diagnosis, assault. I've seen people superglue serious hand lacerations back together so that they could continue working. I've worked a 12-hour shift with a 103-degree fever while walking to and from work in the rain at 50F. Food service industry worker. I could go on forever and ever. Whoa, diagnosis. Assault would be a freaking awesome name for a metal band. That's payback for my crappy Corolla. Don't blame you. I've seen dealerships flat out lie about a condition of a vehicle, be it used or new. My dealership isn't too bad about that, but it happens. I work at Popeyes and this morbidly obese woman couldn't reach 1 foot in front of her to get that 5-piece tender. Her fat wouldn't let her reach more than a couple inches. Picture a T-Rex. Please tell me you made her try a while before inching it closer, slowly. I'm a student but I tutor science part-time. That counts as work, right? She tried to use a calculator to figure out NA plus and CL. I wanted to see what would happen. It took her 5 minutes. That is longer than anyone should be proud of. I work at a frozen yogurt shop, so people are usually happy when they come into the store, which means, unlike my old job at McDonald's, that it's a mostly bearable place to work. One afternoon, shop is moderately busy. A man comes in, jokes around with my co-worker, asks her if he can leave a bag behind the counter for like 10 minutes. She said yes. He leaves the bag, backpack, and goes. 5 minutes later, my co-worker is counting the drawer and I'm out front, Having missed the whole first exchange, a woman at least 10-15 years older than him comes in and says, "My husband left a bag behind the counter. I just need to put something in it, and I'll bring it right back. This is a little odd, but you can't see the bag from the front of the shop, so she had to have known it was there. And I saw her come in from across the parking lot, so she couldn't have been watching the man's and my co-worker's exchange." So I say sure. She takes the bag and goes over to her table, and I help her customer, so I just hear her say thanks and put the bag back. Then she goes to the bathroom and then gets some yogurt. Then 10 or so minutes later, she's still back by the yogurt machines. The man comes back in, and he's freaking furious. The first thing he says when he comes in the door, across the store, is, "You be it low in tone, bit venomous," and the woman clearly hears it. She says something else back, and moves towards the front of the store. They argue for a moment, really viciously but with a low volume, and I hear him say frick a few times, and then he grabs her arm, drags her back to the counter, and grabs the bag. Now this guy is much younger than the lady, and bigger and built, so I wasn't sure if he was her husband or some sketchy dude. Remember, I was in the back when he came in the first time. I say, "Excuse me," but they are arguing again, and this time she hits him across the face, and the volume of their argument is rising. I'm still not sure if this dude is stealing the bag or what, and so as they start to leave, I say, more loudly, "Excuse me." The man turns around, snarls "Frick you, be quiet" loudly, in front of my 15 other customers, 3 of whom were under the age of 5 or 6, and leaves. An old man in line to be rung up goes, "Hey," and some college kids who just paid stand up from their chairs. A moment later, the wife of the old man says, "Hold on to these, we're just going to go check on that," and hands me their yogurt, and she, the old man, and the college kids go out and beat up the guy in the parking lot. Like, first they're all lecturing him, and then he goes to punch the old man, and the college kids get him in a headlock and are talking really lowly to him, and the old man says something and the man goes really pale and they let him go. Then they say something to the woman, who goes equally pale, and come back inside and pay for their yogurt like they didn't just lay down the smack in the parking lot. What the frick? Work in a pharmacy. Had no idea you could be on 3 muscles relaxers, 2 tranquilizers, and 3 plus pain medications, and still retain the ability to walk. My god. And I know a lot of you will say they are selling them, and yeah, some for sure are, but some actually take it all themselves. Meanwhile, I have horrific back pain and can't even get prescription strength ibuprofen. I work as a server and have ended up losing money on more than a few shifts. I come in, order myself a burger, then don't earn enough in tips to pay for it, so I leave work that day with negative income. Pro tip, as a cook, I can make food appear for servers who are polite to me and try to steer customers away from ordering inane crap that's not on the dang menu. However, do not ever try to order crap for imaginary customers so you can sneak off and eat it yourself. I will find out, and I will not be happy. Working the customer service booth at a grocery store, I answer the phone. "Hello, bitchin' grocery, this is Sleeping Gecko speaking. How may I help you? I'm 81 years old, and I trusted you. I'm sorry, Mom. What happened? What went wrong?" Over the course of an hour and multiple phone calls, an elderly woman cussed me out and called my credibility into question because she purchased oranges that did not meet her highest standards. Not only was she upset that the oranges were not tasty, I immediately offered her a total refund, exchange, refund and exchange, etc. She accused me of pulling a bait and switch scam. In her words, "What is this? You put out the good oranges, then when someone tells all their friends to buy them, you put out the crap. I'm sorry, Mom, that you had a negative citrus experience, but I can assure you there was no intent to trick or deceive you. You know dang well what you're doing down there. TLDR. I didn't think it was possible to be cussed out by an 81-year-old woman I had never met regarding oranges. Negative citrus experience is such an amazing phrase. One of our students rang me just after the birth of his first daughter and asked me to phonetically spell out her Arabic name for her birth certificate so that people would pronounce it correctly when reading it in English. TLDR. Got to name someone's kid. About 4 years ago, a guy at work accidentally ordered 1 billion barrels of oil through our maintenance MRO system. Sadly, if we would have actually ordered that, we'd be billionaires right now. I am in the Coast Guard, where one of our missions is to perform life-saving at sea. Last year my cumulative lives saved was -1. No lives saved and got to a scene too late and watched a man die. Did not think it was possible. I am so sorry to hear that. That had to be horrible. I used to manage a copy and print department, and one day I had this very innocent looking 70-ish-year-old lady come in. She had me copy several covers to cleaning repair manuals for various rifles, pistols and assault weapons. Now this wasn't too out of the ordinary since my store was the closest copy place to our county fairgrounds where, in the Midwest, we have gun shows about every month. Less than a week later, she came back with a slightly odder print job. Covers for about a half dozen homemade explosives manuals, tactical tags for maps, marking IEDs, enemy-friendly units, rally and objective points, etc., and detailed maps of our local Air Force base. Clearly, this sent up a few red flags, but for some reason refusing to copy them for her just didn't seem safe. After she left, I notified my regional manager and the FBI. 2 agents were at my store in less than 15 minutes and they ghosted and erased the hard drives on my copiers, and I spent the next 2 hours answering questions. I got a call from one of the agents a few days later with a few final questions and the standard, "Thanks for doing this service to your country." Never did hear anything related to this incident again though. Spent an entire 8 hours shift at Papa John's without making a single pizza. No wonder they shut down. I lifeguard at a pool. I wasn't there personally when this happened, but I heard about it a few days after it happened. We used to have those machines that dry out your swimsuit. You put the suit in a hole, you press the lid down for a few seconds, and I guess it vibrates the living crap out of the swimsuit to dry it off. The one in the women's locker room didn't shut off right away when you open the lid, but most people have the sense to not stick the appendages in the machine. When the lid opened, well, except this old lady, she sticks her hand in and her suit wraps around her finger. Somehow, it cut her finger off. We don't have those machines anymore. When you're lifeguard, don't you expect people drowning? You don't expect having to stem the flow of someone's bleeding stump of a finger. I built a puke cannon today. It fires fake puke for a stage performance that requires projectile vomiting. I started a garage sale with 9 couches and ended the day with 11 and an extra bed. Worst garage sale ever. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.